Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. This week I've decided to do a special vlog on Parkinson's. Following on from the gender reveal, a lot of you guys asked questions about Parkinson's, my dad's journey with Parkinson's, and how it's like to live with someone who suffers from Parkinson's. And ironically, it's also Parkinson's Awareness Week. So I thought it'd be a great time to share my story with you, share my dad's story with you, and just give you an insight really into what it's like to live with someone with Parkinson's and to grow up living with someone with Parkinson's. So what is Parkinson's? Parkinson's is a disease whereby parts of the brain become progressively damaged as time goes on. Some of the symptoms of Parkinson's are stiff and inflexible muscles, slow movement, as well as involuntary muscle reactions. So a lot of times you'll notice that people who suffer from Parkinson's have maybe a hand where they're having involuntary movements, formerly referred to as tremors. And in my dad's case, it is his hand which he has tremors. So when my dad was first diagnosed with Parkinson's, it was back in 1991, where his inability to sign a piece of paper is what flagged up his tremors to my mum. Since before then, she didn't really notice any issues, but he was visibly unable to sign a piece of paper because of the tremor that he was having. And on the back of that, they then went to the hospital and did various tests and diagnosed him with Parkinson's in 1992. The trouble we have with Parkinson's disease is we're not yet clear as to what causes the disease, and therefore diagnosis of Parkinson's is extremely difficult. And that's why Parkinsons UK are doing amazing work in the community, where they're doing a massive push trying to help raise funds to pump into research and development to understand what actually causes Parkinson's in order for us to diagnose it quicker and help individuals who may be suffering from Parkinson's disease. I myself was born in 1992, so all my life I've known my dad to have suffered from Parkinson's. My older sisters have memories of before my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, so that that in itself is also a invaluable memory to them, to be honest, to see my father pre and post Parkinson's disease. Through the years of him having to break the news to our family and the family getting used to what Parkinson's disease was, I was way too young to even understand or comprehend what was going on. But all I knew that as I started to get older, certain things which maybe my friends were doing, I wasn't able to do, and I very, very, very clearly remember one thing which stands out was during the week after school, parents and children, or my friends, for example, would go away and do something in the evening, or after school go and do something. Unfortunately, I didn't have that privilege because my father would come to pick me up from school, but he had a very narrow window in which he had to pick me up and get back home before he was then due his next medication. So a memory which clearly stands out was me thinking, hold on, why can my friends go for like after school activities or go to like the barber after school, yet I can't? And I think that's probably my earliest memory in regards to Parkinson's, really appreciating that, okay, my family is significantly different to others because of this condition, and it really opened my eyes to the impact that it was having on my family. And I would also say that another noticeable thing was my dad used to walk with a walking stick, and when I was as young as 8, 9 and 10, it was really difficult for me to understand why an individual or why my father needed a walking stick. So to me it was so normal. I had only seen him using a walking stick, so to me it was very normal. But to my friends, they would often ask me, oh, why does your dad have a walking stick? But I wasn't able to answer that question because I didn't actually understand the reason as to why he needed it. And that was another thing which really played on my heart, because it shows that we really need to raise awareness even in the young people. This is something that can affect your family and even the young ones, so it's really important that we help Parkinsons UK raise awareness about this condition. So I'd say between the ages of around, anything between 7 and 11 or 12, I couldn't really comprehend what was going on. But after that, when I was going through the years of 13, 14, 15, I then started to understand the condition that my dad had. I'd be attending appointments with him and my older siblings or my mum. And my eyes were really starting to open as to what this condition was, how serious it was, and what the implications would be going forward. And I suppose from that sort of age, the age of 13, 14, I really had to take a forward seat in looking after my father. I only have 2 older sisters and my mother, so naturally, as 3 women, it's difficult to help my father in all of his needs. So as the only son, it was required of me to rise up and help him as soon as I possibly could. So I remember, from a very young age, helping him, in many instances, bathing him, taking him to the bathroom, helping him in public areas. And these were very, very challenging things. Behind closed doors, what you do in the comfort of your home is okay because no one will be watching you, no one will be seeing what you're doing. But when you have to do it outside, it's very evident that when I'm on the streets helping my father, everyone will look at me to see what's going on. What is he doing? Why can't this man walk? Why does he need assistance going to the toilet? All these things, and they all play a part, because I suppose when you're that young, it's really easy to, think about, oh, everyone's watching me, everyone's looking what I'm doing, everyone's looking at me. You kind of want to swallow yourself up because you don't want to be in an area where people are staring. And I suppose if you feel, I can only imagine how it makes my father feel, knowing that he's suffering from a condition which A, many people don't know about, and B, people are just looking at him as soon as he makes an appearance on the street. People are watching him. People are maybe thinking, or maybe another thing which he's personally said is something that he doesn't like is pity. People always telling him, oh, I feel sorry for you, I really understand how it must be, I understand what you're going through. And the harsh reality is we don't. We really don't understand what it's like to not be able to move a limb, what it's like to constantly have your hand moving without you being able to control it and say, no, I just want to place my hand on my leg. So I think that he's been very vocal in that, and he's very often said that is something that really upsets him, because people tried to say that they understand what you're going through, and really truly we don't understand. We can only see with our eyes what's happening, but we can't feel the pain that he feels. And in addition to that as well, like some of the things that would often play on his mind would be, he couldn't be left home alone. So all the time, whether if it was a family event, for example, myself, my 2 sisters, or my mother would have to make a sacrifice and stay back with him. So we could never go out as a family, we couldn't go together. Again, the whole thing of if he did go to a family function, people would be looking at him, passing comments, and those sorts of things all play a part. At the end of the day, you think that when you're in the midst of family and friends, they'll only say positive things, but unfortunately that's not always the case, and it can have a very, very detrimental effect on someone suffering from Parkinson's, because as much as it is a condition which affects your brain and your movement, your mentality needs to be really positive. In order for you to get through every day, you need to have a really positive mind frame, because at the end of the day we know that it's a progressive disease, so it only gets worse. So the individual has to be really positive in order to get through every day, because they can't say today is going to be a better day than yesterday, because they know the way that the condition works. So then following on from that, through the years of, let's say, 17, 18, 19, and then into my early 20s, I had built up almost like a defense mechanism to not really talk about my father too much. I didn't want, the same way that people pity him, because of his inability to maybe do certain things, I didn't want people passing on that pity to me in saying, oh, if I had to say, oh, I can't do something because I'm looking after my dad. I didn't want them to kind of be like, oh yeah, you know, oh, it's a real shame that you have to look after your dad or anything like that. I'd rather keep that to myself and just say, you know, no, I'm not available. So that was a big thing for me, because almost it was like I didn't want my friends to know what was really going on with my dad, or the magnitude of his condition. And I suppose one of the main things I didn't do was open up to any of my friends about it. I didn't speak to any of them. A lot of them, you know, often say, now that they've met my father, a lot of them often say that they find it strange how they never really asked about my dad. You know, I didn't really speak about him, but they didn't really ask about him. And it just goes to show that you never know what someone's going through. So it's imperative that even your closest friends, your loved ones, you know, you really need to make sure you have those channels of communication to really help people who are going through, you know, such situations. You know, the first person I think I opened up to was one of my friends who was studying medicine. And I would commonly tell him, you know, the things my dad was going through, the medication he was on, the things that I was going through, but I always had a positive mind frame. You know, I would never let any situation that was affecting my father and affecting me or affecting our family, I would never show it. So I had an ability to kind of switch in and out of zones. And I remember when I first opened up to my wife about it, and I found at that time she was my girlfriend, or my friend even, maybe. At that stage it was really difficult, because you never know when's the right time to kind of open up about it, because you don't know what the other person knows about Parkinson's.
When Amit first told me that his dad had Parkinson's, I was quite surprised, because I don't know, actually, to be honest, I don't remember if we were dating at the time or not, but we'd been talking a while, as in we'd known each other a while, but I'd never heard him like mention his dad. And I think I just randomly asked him, oh, how come you never talk about your dad? So I thought, okay, maybe his parents are divorced, or maybe he doesn't have his dad anymore, like, and then that's obviously when he told me, and I can't say I knew much about Parkinson's. I can't say even up to now I know as much as Amit does about it, but I did know that obviously it affected a lot of the way Amit's life had to be lived, in terms of him and his sisters, his mum, are basically the sole carers of his dad, so they do like try and work it around each other. I think first meeting his dad, I didn't know what to expect, because I didn't know what the symptoms of Parkinson's were. I didn't know if it meant that he wouldn't be able to talk to me, or if it meant that I wouldn't be able to shake his hand, or I just basically didn't know. So I think once again that's why this video is so important to Amit and to Parkinson's UK, because so many people have no idea of what Parkinson's actually means. What does it mean for the person? What does it mean for the people that are around that person, and how do we deal with it? So yeah, I think definitely it is something that we do need to raise awareness about when we are learning about other stuff in school. To be honest, I don't even know if we ever learned about Parkinson's as a disease in school. I can't tell you I remember anything, but maybe it's something that does need to be higher up on our radars, and more information does need to be given to people about it.
Around 18 months ago, my father was put on a drug called duodopa. Duodopa is probably the most advanced drug for Parkinson's that's available in the UK, and most probably worldwide. And there was a large delay for maybe 4 or 5 years where he needed duodopa, but he was unable to get onto it because of the funding. Funding was stripped back by the government for these specialist drugs, and within those 4 to 5 years he had to take medication which wasn't working for him, wasn't able to control his condition, and in fact it progressed in those 4 to 5 years. His Parkinson's progressed so much so that now that he's on the drug, he's not able to reap the benefits of it, and it's really disappointing that the drugs are available. The drug, you know, we're fortunate enough to live in a country where the drugs are available, and it's really, really hard to see someone being refused the right, you know, for a drug which they so desperately need. what we've seen is Parkinson's is normally a condition which gets diagnosed in people over the age of 60. However, unfortunately, in probably the last 5 or 10 years, we've seen people young as 18 be diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I've been fortunate enough to even meet some 18-year-olds who have been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And what I would say is really encouraging is when the earlier we diagnose people with Parkinson's, the more opportunity we have to give them the drugs they need in order to improve their quality of life. So it's imperative, it's so important to look out for the symptoms, read up on Parkinson's, and if you do have any concerns, flag it up as soon as possible, because one of the things my father did was not raise any concerns to my mother. As soon as he noticed it, he later on said that he knew that he was having some issues with his hand. He knew that he couldn't write very well anymore, but he didn't want to flag up that issue with my mum. And it then got to a stage where they waited a few months, only until my mum noticed it with her own eyes, could she then take him to the doctor. So there's a massive urgency for us to get behind Parkinson's UK, support them in everything that they're doing. Let's help them raise awareness and, donate as much as we can in order to find a cure. There's a massive urgency to do so. As I said, people from a very young age are now being diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I've seen my father live for 24 years suffering from Parkinson's, and it's it hurts to say that his quality of life now is not very good, and I would hate to think how an individual from the age of 18 would be if they had to live from 18 up to whichever age, let's say 60, 70, to suffer from Parkinson's from 50 or 60 years. It would be absolutely horrific. It would be something that I wouldn't want to witness. And therefore I encourage you all, please check them out. Check out the link below, and let's help them raise awareness and find a cure for Parkinson's.